controllers and play a control-based deck, you also get an extra fixing with what's the name? The garden, buried in garden. The exile in Celestia. So you even get extra fixing there. You can just branch out. And that doesn't mean that you'll just, Lily Daily, I don't know what's happening, whatever happens with this draft, I don't know. You can see by the end of pack 1, all right, this looks like it could be a good aggressive deck. Or I don't have good aggressive 2-drops, and I'm not gonna build an aggressive deck probably. Maybe early pack 2, you can get some, I don't know, you get 2 unicorns, and I'm like, okay, 2 unicorns, I'm gonna be tempo, I'm gonna be aggressive. And you can still go with that, get that aggressive curve. But you can also just say, okay, I didn't get aggressive cards. Let's build a control deck. Let's build a slower deck. When you go white, unless you're white-green, most of the time, you are not going to be able to say that. Like, it's going to be end of pack 1, and you're going to have like 1 white 2-drop, and you're still going to be like, I gotta make this deck aggressive, because white is not going to be great at late game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that was sort of the question. Yeah, no, that answered my question, and it lets me conceptualize the archetypes a little bit better.
What? Let's see.
So I guess we'll move. Now did you want to go to the spreadsheet now?
Wait 1 second. You know what the hell is happening with with your mic? I'm listening to, I don't know. Yeah, let's work on card evaluation now. Is that what you asked? Something is just weird. Sometimes I hear you weirdly. It's
because I'm a really crappy.
I mean, I'm guessing that it's not gonna have. We're not gonna have a lot of. I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay.
I'm guessing that you're not gonna need like a ton of time on the card evaluation, because you kind of figured it out. That's what I hoped for, because you've played the set a bit.
Me too.
So you're probably gonna switch to gameplay pretty soon. And at any time, by the way, when you feel like you've had enough, you can say it. It's fine. It's we can have a shorter session, whatever you feel like. We can go to gameplay next time, but however you feel comfortable. Okay.
Okay.
So you didn't know how to grade the no witnesses?
Yeah, because I don't know what to think of like just plain board wipes. Because they're so contextual, I feel like it's great in a deck where like you don't want to play a lot of creatures, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's bad where you do have a lot of creatures. So
Well,
no, like where to put it in the middle because it was so polarized in my head.
Did we have a discussion on the no witnesses last time?
If we did, it was very brief. I don't think it was like an in-depth discussion.
Okay, because this is a good board wipe to talk about. So, for example, like the black board wipe is pretty good. The white board wipe is complete garbage.
Why?
Okay, so see, I have it as a D-. Let me just open it up. So with board wipes, they're gonna be here in every set. So it is worth like discussing them and why you want to pick them or why you don't want to pick them. So I have it like as the lowest grade before unplayable. First thing to consider is what does a caller want to do? And if a caller wants to get out there on the board, have a better board presence than the opponent in that early game, if it wants to be aggressive, if he just wants to add on top of the board and not focus on late game, then the board wipe becomes worse and worse. There are some broken board wipes that work everywhere, of course. Like I don't know, Wanderer, that basically one-sided board wipe. Where was that? One, I think. So this one is just like a normal board wipe, but worse than a normal board wipe. You're gonna get to why. So just board wipe in white, usually nothing special, because you wanna be the one who is affecting the board as much as you can. And usually when that doesn't happen, when you're not affecting the board the board better than the opponent in white, in this set, it means that things got wrong. Like you're probably losing the game, and most decks are gonna be slower than you and have better late game. So you're already losing, and the board wipe is probably not gonna help, because what does the board wipe do? What do you want from the board wipe? Like you want value. You're not getting tempo from the board wipe. You want value. You want to clear more creatures than the more cards from your opponent than from yourself. And if that's happening in most of your white decks, there are some Celestia decks where board wipe is better. You can build control decks there. You're already losing so much that just clearing the board is not going to help, because early game and mid game was where you are you want to be the strongest. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm already losing, maybe it's going to go then. Better to add a card that is going to be good for your game plan, right? Add a trick or a creature or something random. Doesn't have to be powerful. Just something that you can, with what you can continue to be proactive and affect the board. Now, that's just in general for board wipes and colors where you want to use them. Now, this board wipe is just one of the worst board wipes that I have ever seen.
In this set, right? Not like generally?
Generally in every single, like last 10 years or something.
Oh. But it lets you investigate. But I guess if you're wiping the board, you're not the person that's going to investigate.
Well, hopefully you're not investigating. I've had one student tell me like, oh, but maybe I'm going to go wide and then I'm going to investigate. So why are you killing all the creatures if you have more creatures than the opponent? Like, what kind of a situation is that?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was like you have like 5 1/1s somehow, and opponent has 4 6/6s. I don't know what is that.
Would this be good in like a white-black deck though?
Like white-black deck still wants to be aggressive. It's a white-black deck. It's black doesn't really have crazy late game. It's the multicolor cards in like Teamer and blue-black have really good late game. Blue has a nice late game green as well. Black really doesn't have much for the late game. So what black adds to white in this format, since white is not great at late game, black is not great at late game, well, black adds some removal and a 1/1 for 1, the menace. The menace creature, right? The dog.
Yes.
That's what black adds to white. And now you have more 1-drop commons. Like you have 2 1-drop commons, which are kind of unusual in this format. And in the future, they're going to be unusual. That's the change with play boosters, from what I've heard. That's just going to be how it is. Now, in that deck, yeah, the board wipe is not going to be great as well. You could maybe have some kind of... like, I'm talking about decks on average, right? How the decks end up on average. You don't want to think about like you take this pack one, pick one, and think, oh, there's that 1 in 10 chance that I'm going to have a very grindy black-white deck. Because there is going to be 9 out of 10 that you're not. So no reason to like flip so many coins. Now, why this sucks is the investigate. This is huge. Like, this is huge that the opponent gets an extra card.
Yeah, after you wipe the board, so you're essentially giving them the resources to rebuild their board.
Yeah, and this is probably the easiest to think about. Like, how does a game play out where you're setting up for a board wipe? Now, there are gonna be like those times where you really drew badly and you couldn't affect the board, right? And then opponent did affect the board, and then your board wipe was great because you had a crappy hand and the draws didn't go in your favor. But you don't want cards that are good in those games, right?
Yeah.
Or you expect to not have terrible games, right? And that's a terrible game where you also got enough mana to do this. So it's like, this is very, very conditional. And for every card, you need to think like, how often is the condition going to be met that this card is worthy, that this card is good? And
Yeah.
for this one, well, whenever you play any board wipe, doesn't matter what it is. So you're kind of preparing for it, right? You're not just playing every single card. You're not playing every creature on the board and then hoping that I don't know what happens, that all of a sudden an opponent plays their whole hand in one turn. You're kind of having bad turns. That is on average going to be how you prepare for a board wipe. You have bad turns. You take a turn off. What do you want to say?
Oh no, it's just like I was just saying yes.
So you take a turn off. You take maybe 2 turns off. Maybe you have 5 mana and you have a 5-drop, but you play 1 2-drop just so opponent doesn't suspect the board wipe too much. So maybe they overcommit, and then you maybe on the last turn you probably just chump block to gain some life, and then to board wipe without your life total being too low. Now, that comes at a cost. The cost is, well, opponent is affecting the board. They're attacking with creatures and they're killing you. That means that you're using your life. Whenever you prepare for a board wipe, you're losing life, and
Okay.
you're investing your life that it's gonna be enough value that the board wipe is gonna gain you by killing a ton of opponent's creatures and only maybe 1 or 2 of yours, that you're gonna get back in the game, and that life is not gonna matter. You're still gonna win. But you usually have to invest a good amount of your life total. And then there comes a turn where you're playing a board wipe. The best turn, opponent has 5 creatures, you have 1. Every board wipe is great. Every board wipe ever in existence is great. Well, that's not normal. That is not what usually happens. Your opponent is not gonna have 5 creatures, and you're not gonna have only 1. Because, well, people are better at Magic than they were a long time ago. And they're gonna be like, wait, I'm kind of destroying this game. I don't need to play another creature or 2. I'm just gonna destroy this game anyways. Because I have 3 creatures, opponent has like 1, and my creatures are pretty big as well. So that's usually not gonna happen. Maybe at very low levels of competition, and maybe not even there, because there people play around board wipes all the time for no reason. They lose a lot of games when they play around board wipes. So usually it's gonna be like, I don't know, you have 1 worthless creature or 2, and opponent has like 3, 4. So you're kind of hoping that you're gonna have 1 2-drop, opponent is gonna have 1 2-drop, and they're gonna play like 2 4-drops or something, and that's gonna be great. Great for you. Anything extra is perfect. Well, let's say you have 1 small creature, opponent has 3 creatures, and they're a bit bigger. So you play a board wipe. That means you're losing your creature, that's 1 card. You're losing your board wipe, that's the 2nd card. They're losing 3 cards. Okay, value gained. Like that's like kind of the floor you're going for. You have gained some value. You lost 2 cards, they lost 3 cards. That is fine. And their cards were kind of bigger, right? So it's not only about the cards, they also lost some bigger creatures. Okay, pretty good. Well, this thing is also gonna give them an extra card. So now you're kind of even. And that seems fine, right? Okay, you traded 3 for 3, and their creatures were kind of bigger. 3 for 3 seems fine. But it's not really fine, because you have used 4 mana. So they get to rebuild their board first. And you have already lost some life because you were preparing for that board wipe turn.
Oh my
so your life is already
god!
lower.
This card is bad.
Yeah. It's very hard to gain like good value with this and then still continue to win the game. And big deal is also that it's white, where you're trying to be the one who is leading on board and always affecting it, always affecting it. Like I've just played like a little bit slower deck against a white red deck with board wipe, and it felt like they had it, and then they kind of traded fine. I stopped playing my things at one point, but then I was like, wait, I'm playing against Boros. It's turn 7, and that's where we are starting the game, and they're lower on life total. Like they are the aggressive deck, but they're low on life total, so they gotta be careful. They gotta block now. What? That's opposite of what their game plan is. They don't want to block and wait for late game. So yeah, that's the thing. Like board wipes, just plain board wipes like this one, but this also gives them a card or any board wipe. They're never like completely broken when they just wipe the board, because that preparing comes at a cost. And then there is always a time where you are the one who is winning, or you're at parity, and then it's unplayable card. Then it's you have a card in your hand that's unplayable. And if it was something else, you could have maybe won the game just by continuing to play. Opponent is playing with one extra card. So it's easy to imagine like a perfect situation, but there is so much that leads up to it. When we go to the blackboard wipe, which is, what's the name of the black? Deadly cover up?
Yeah.
It's deadly cover up. Okay. When we go to the blackboard wipe, it's a bit different, right? Because black, like black green, for example, or black blue, they're kind of slower. They have better late game than white. So even though this board wipe costs 1 more, which is kind of big, well, black decks a lot of time like their late game. And then there's another thing. You're gonna see the full deck and hand from your opponent.
Yeah.
Right? You get about it, but you also know what they have. You know what's gonna happen. You know what removal you have to play against. You know what bombs you have to save your removal for. You kind of know what you're playing against. You can take screenshots or just, I don't know, or remember it. I just remember it. If it was like a high level competition, I would write some important things down. That's huge, getting that information. And it's not like you have a really bad effect and then get the information. So you have a board wipe, and you know what you're playing against. You know how to continue the game. It's so much easier. And you see their full hand. Even deck is great to see, but full hand, you know what they have. So it's not completely broken, but it's a good card. And if this was white, again, it would be slightly worse. But it would still be okay, but slightly worse. They would really need to have some kind of a bit more grindy deck. General, like in decks that want to go fast, the board wipes kind of suck.
Okay.
This is your all tier list, all right? All right. So that I'm guessing that makes sense, right?
Yes. What would you grade No Witnesses? Is it an F or is it still a D minus?
No, D minus. Like it's not unplayable, and some Celestial decks would actually want it. And funny thing is, there are some decks that have some green decks, like grindy green decks, that have such amazing mana that you would even be fine. Usually, you don't want to splash like 2 pip cards, but where you would kind of be okay splashing the No Witnesses.
Okay.
Where, like, just because you're so, you know, that you have such a good late game, like having this effect that resets the board is game winning in some of these decks. Oh, you have all of this as a C. What is a C for you? What is a C grade for you? Just to see if we have
C
the same.
grade for me is like what you said. It's like sometimes I'll play it's a fillable, but I would probably also cut it.
Okay, but it's pretty good in your deck, right? Like it's not amazing, but it's you're happy with having it. Okay.
I'm not sad about having it. I wish there was a better card.
Yeah, just the thing is like all of these.
Because D is specifically for like you would only
Filler.
use this card because your deck is in that archetype.
What?
like that's what D says, right? D is like this card is good. These cards are in this grade because let's see. Ranges from medium to bad filler. Cards in this tier get cut a lot. Require specific decks. Yeah, require specific decks to be good playables. And I didn't think those required specific decks to be playables.
Okay, but the thing is, like, this is the most important part. Like, ranges from medium to bad filler. It's just like it's filler. It's something that no deck is trying to have. It's something that you put in a deck if you don't have a better card.
Oh.
Yeah. And when you're low on playables, you just put them in. It's fine. It's not gonna be. They're not unplayable. So C is usually like, oh, this is kind of fun. I'm picking this card and putting it in the deck, and I'm good with this. I'm pretty good with this. Yeah, these are all just all three kind of whatever. Like 5-drop. I thought it was gonna be better. It's just like the 5-drops. You have morphs, and you actually have good 5-drops. You have morphs, so you have less room. You always have things to do with your mana, so you have less room for 5-drops that are not really good. And this is one of them. So there are some more 5-drops where you can play them for 3, or you can also, so they can be a 3-drop, or you can play them for 5. And like, I don't know, the green, the creeper, the green 3/3, where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's for example the C, like, and it's not broken or anything. It's just like nice. You have it as a 3 mana 2/2, or you can have it as a 5 mana 5/5, and then it blocks this thing and kills it. And you can also, like, if you have time, you can just flip it and kill, enchant another artifact. So it's just, you never have room for this, and that's gonna be true in any set for most 5-drops. Like, no matter how good they look, 5-drops are usually like D plus, most of them. If they're just cost 5 and have no other way to cast them. So because every deck can contain a limited amount of 5-drops, and even a more limited amount of 6-drops. And usually it's like 0 up to 2 6-drops, depending on the format. That's like the average. And it's for 5-drops, it's kind of similar, like 0 up to 3. How many you want in a deck? What that means is, it's not like you never want to have 5-drops, but it's, if you pick 5-drops that are not amazing, like the green, where is it? Killer Among Us, for example. Like, this is incredible 5-drop. And you agree with me, so that's great. So that's like an incredible 5-drop. That you pick and you want to play in any deck. It's amazing. But 5-drops that are not just over the top, usually, even if they look really good, you pick like 1 or 2 of them, and you never need another 5-drop again. Like, it's pack 1, you picked 2 Haza Vigilantes, and you never want any more 5-drops. Now that might seem fine, but it's not, because every pick 13 or 12 or 11 5-drop that you're gonna see goes in a sideboard. And usually you get these 5-drops as free picks. So this is something also that
Okay.
is important, like how highly you pick cards. Is like, if you want to have like 0 up to a couple in that slot, doesn't have to be exactly this card, in that slot, then you kind of want to pick them lower, unless they're over the top, completely over the top, because you're going to be missing on all of the free picks later. It's a similar reasoning why, like, the first on the job, you're not gonna usually take that highly, because you don't want to have like 3 or 4 of those. 2 are usually nice in a deck that wants them, really nice in a deck that wants them. But once you get 2, every on the job that you're gonna get kind of later on, it's not gonna go in your deck. But that card is still really good in a deck that wants it. So it's a bit of a weird comparison. It's just, be careful, like, when you have a slot, it can be a mana cost or a type of card that doesn't allow you to play like a large number of that type of cards.
Okay.
Try to not fill it up too quickly, because even when you get like better cards, better 5-drops, you're just replacing them. Like this goes in the sideboard, you get another one.
Yes, you've said
And
this
maybe
before.
yeah.
And I guess I just
What is
forgot.
it?
You told me this before, and I guess I just forgot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
About this, about the brackets, like the slots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. It's I don't expect you to remember everything. Whatever. That's fine. It's just like +2 +0 doesn't add this much in this format, because everything already trades is the thing.
Yeah.
As like all the 2-drops and 3-drops in this format trade already, and then the +2 so means something maybe on when you have a 1/1 or something else. But the tricks are really good here, so that's what you want over this. Like it's kind of simple. This removal that doesn't hit everything, so you can't just use it whenever you want. You gotta wait for the right thing. That's why it's not like a super high pick, but it's still fine card to have in a deck. Okay, that's broken. I'm just kind of went quickly over those cards because it's not that big of a problem, the gray difference. Everything else in white is fine. You didn't grade this one?
I played with it once just to like experiment, and I still don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, it's kind of unplayable, but I'm giving it a D- maybe for that one special deck that's gonna be okay with it. The thing is, like, at 7 mana, when you play a 7 mana card. Oh, just to remind me, I forgot to tell, like, why did I talk about 5-drop and 6-drop slots? Like, there are a lot of slots in draft. Like, removal is one slot. It's you don't really. If removal is good, it's good. You don't care like how much it costs. Then 2-drop creatures are one slot. But 5-drop and 6-drop creatures, why is it a slot that cannot contain a lot of cards in most sets, in most decks? Is because naturally getting to 5 mana takes a long time. It doesn't take 5 turns. It takes a long time, and to 6 even longer. To 7, a lot of the games are gonna end before anybody gets to 7 mana. That's why getting to 2, yeah.
Let's say that like you don't immediately go up against a super aggro early game, you die type of deck. Like if you're doing blue green or blue white, I would think you make enough clues and you sort of like draw enough cards, you rummage enough to like get to 7 pretty easily, no?
In this set, the games take longer because they have chilled out with the 1-drops and 2-drops with how powerful they are. So you do get to 7 more often. But I'm not talking about this card. I'm kind of talking about all the 5-drops and 6-drops and 7-drops. I'm just going to remove that from the screen. That's why you can't have a ton of them. In this set, you can have a bit more, but still got to be careful because you do have more time to develop because every 2-drop and 3-drop trades, and you're usually not going to get completely overwhelmed in the early game, even against the Boros deck. Now, I'm just saying, trying to like paint a picture. Why can you have a ton of 2-drops? Well, you always get 2 mana. 3-drops are you always get to 3 mana. It's fine to have a good amount of those. 4 mana, it's pretty easy to get to. Turn 4, a lot of times you are gonna get to have 4 mana, but like 5, 6, 7, those are the jumps where creatures are a lot more powerful for the reason that because we have lands in Magic and it takes a long time to get there. If you're not at one session, we can go through hypergeometric calculator. I can give you the data, how long it takes. Now, this 7-drop. I'm not saying 7-drops are bad. In this set, they are better than usual. Definitely better than usual. Because the games take longer and green has pretty good ramp. Green can, if you are green, you can get to hit lands easier with a lot of cards, and you have time to play the 7-drops. Now this one, once you play a 7-drop, usually you're not gonna have anything left in your hand. And then you play this 7-drop. When is this effect useful? Exactly on the turn when you play it. Because I mean, you untap, you have 7 mana. I mean, what cards do you have? Like 5 more 7-drops in your hand? It's you play this, and that's when you gotta use it. So first thing, you gotta have collect evidence 10. Well, seems easy to get, sure, but there are really good collect evidence cards which you might have, and you might have used collect evidence there. But the biggest problem with this one is like when you play a freaking 7-drop, you're not gonna have anything in your hand that you can't cast. Like next turn, you can play your hand is either empty or next turn is gonna be empty with just that like one card that you have. So that's the problem with it. This helps you cast. It's same like Omniscience. Of course, this one is a 6/6 and it has a big cost. Similar reason why Omniscience, you know the card,
Yeah.
Omniscience, is like it's unplayable in a regular competitive draft format, is because like once you play it, you have nothing else to cast. You just lost a full card. You just played with a mulligan. You lost a full card. This one is a 6/6 at least, but you can do this maybe once. This 10. So the 6/6 flyer is very small for 7 mana. It's very small. It's very small for 7. Things either need to be game winning, or they need to be very good at getting you back in the game. Because when you have a 7-drop in your hand, for a long time, you're playing with 6 cards. You're playing with a mulligan. Because that 7-drop, it's going to take a long time for it to get in. So every time a 7-drop is in your hand, you're playing with a mulligan until you finally get to cast it, if you get a cast. So for example, there's a Glint Fever, which I think you graded well. Yeah, same like me. Which is a 7-drop. It's not one body, right? They kill this, they just kill your 7-drop, that's it. It's moving counters to other creatures, which is nice. And it gains you life. Sometimes it gains you a lot of life. So it gives you reach, it gives you pressure on other creatures. There's not going to be just one card that kills it. Because, well, usually you spread the counters around a bit. And gaining life, that's a really good effect to have on 7-drops. That gets you back in the game.
Yeah.
This one, I mean, if you're already losing, you just continue losing. And 7-drops in your hand help you help you be in a bad position. This helps you be in a bad position until you finally play it. Because, again, you're playing with one less card than your opponent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What is this? That's the Gadgeteer. So why do you like this card? You like it a lot.
Because I guess you don't cast a lot of artifact spells very often, but I think in a blue-green deck, it was like really helpful. In that you could green-blue decks, what I've seen, make a lot of clues, and it's just, I think paying 1 to draw a card is good.
One less, you mean?
Yeah, because of the clue, the clue only costs 2, so you're only paying 1, and then you could like draw a card for 1 if you have the clues.
Yeah, but it's so many. The problem is like, first, if this was in the last set in LCI, this would be pretty fucking good. This would be incredible. You had crafts, you had a ton of artifacts to cast. I don't know, you have like 10 plus artifacts in your deck. And yeah, this would, you had map talk. This would be incredible in the previous set. And 1 less to craft is good. You're basically never casting an artifact after this. It is so hard to do. If you're always casting an artifact after this is really good, right? It's like 3 mana, 2/3, which makes a clue. So that one is kind of off the table. You're going to have some easy decks, I guess, where you have a bit more artifacts. So we're mostly focusing on the second part. You need to have a ton of clues. And probably it's going to be easy, hopefully. You really need to have a ton of clues for this to be good. The problem is that once you start drawing cards, it's usually a bit later in the game, right? So from the clues, it's a bit later in the game, and you usually have a good amount of mana then. So it is very questionable if that 1 mana for that 1 or 2 turns or something is gonna be helpful. And because at those later parts of the game, like you usually have enough mana for what you want to do. And when you have like, I don't know, 5-6 mana or plus or more or even more than that, it is very questionable if 1 mana is actually going to matter, because a lot of times you are going to have 1 mana laying around and then it's going to be like, oh, well, I could have just paid for 2 for clue. It was fine. So it requires a lot of work from other cards, and you're usually not going to have a ton of clues on the battlefield. There are some decks where this can work, but it's like you never want to pick this and then get clues because of this, just to pay 1 less for that. So you're never going to build around the card. So you kind of need to have a deck ready where it's good, and those cards are never high picks.
I guess
Like
the
if you
reason
need,
I thought it was good is because when I face against it, it is the deck that works well with it.
yeah.
So not that I personally played with this card and thought it was like good and it worked out for me, but I've seen everybody else do it well. So I thought like, well, if everyone else is doing it well and I'm doing bad, like there seems to be more evidence for it to be good than bad.
But I wonder if you like, it would be nice if you had those games to show me, because I've had games where it looked like this was doing things, but when I took a better look, like for the opponents, I remember one game where it was great, but every other game was like it seemed like, oh, but it would be kind of the same if they paid 2 to draw that card, like 1 extra mana for that card draw. It would be basically the same thing. Maybe they would draw 1 card 1 turn on the next turn, not this turn. So
I
just
guess
the
the
payoff
deck
is
that I
not
saw
there.
it in, it was the we were sort of like even on the board, but then they had a bunch of clues. That's what the difference is. And they did have a bunch of mana. But paying just 1 to be able to draw another card and still having a bunch of mana remaining so they can cast whatever it is that they drew seems to have essentially found them what they needed to break the board and then kill me.
Yeah, but maybe it was good in that exact situation. But on average, like you really need to get to that situation where you have a bunch of clues, because just paying 1 less for 1 is nothing.
Okay.
And try to remember how many times did you have a bunch of clues and you really needed to use all of them or a lot of them. It just doesn't really happen,
Okay.
because you don't want to be cracking clues anyways early, like for 1 or 2 mana, because that's just mana that's not going on the battlefield. Like when you want to draw cards is at later parts of the game. But sometimes you just have mana laying around, so you draw it, so that's fine. But yeah, well, I don't know. I don't have much else to say about the guy. It's just like a 2-3 body. It's not horrible body. It's usually like when cards need specific situations and other cards for them to work, but that's still like not super powerful. Like when you pay less for your creatures, when you pay less to play your cards, like when you ramp with cards, that's worth it because that's affecting the board. When you pay less to draw cards, that's usually like the game is already kind of late. In the late, you're already in the late game, and you have a good amount of mana. You don't need to pay less to draw cards. That's kind of about it. If this set had like it was, if it was always like every second card is making clues, there are like always 3 clues around, and I'm gonna draw 10 cards from clues in every game, then it would be pretty good. But usually, on average, like you have, I don't know, 5 cards or less that investigate, and that's like 5 cards in your whole deck. If you maybe you draw like 2 when you have this on the battlefield, and then hopefully that 1 mana for drawing card is gonna really matter. And that specific situation is probably gonna happen sometimes where, I don't know, opponent has 5 clues somehow, and then it's gonna be good, but that basically never happens. This is a C plus.
I don't know if that's a C plus. I think it's like a C probably. I was enthusiastic.
It's okay. It's okay, removal spell. It's the problem is that there is some like there are effects on the battlefield that where cards have effects and you really want to remove that effect from the battlefield, where this doesn't do it, or it does it for like 5 mana, which is a ton. And there are untaps. That's kind of what sucks. Like there's a really good common gargoyle that untaps.
I haven't ran into that situation yet, funny enough.
I've done it a lot of times to my opponents, and that kind of sucks. Then they just trade with that creature if you tapped out, or they force you to use that 2 mana. There's also a green command that untaps, which is kind of okay. The 2/2, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure, you usually don't.
The thought process of this was that, like, first off, like, you wouldn't use it on a card that has passive effects.
You almost always wouldn't.
Yeah, and then, but in blue, I don't feel like blue has any effects aside from bouncing, really. So I thought, like, well, something that's a little bit more hard removal is fine. And then, like, that way, if it stays on the field, it's sort of okay if it's like especially when it's going against a deck that wants things in the graveyard to collect evidence, you know?
Yeah, but it's better to let them have the. You're not collecting evidence because you're playing accusation as well, but it's better to just remove a creature if there are some creatures and a good amount that have a good effect. And then you said it, like in blue, there's good bounce. There is a 2 mana bounce which you like, and I like it as well. Probably better than D plus. There is an incredible card, which is the Exit Specialist, which bounces as well. So a lot of things can go wrong, and especially when you're removing something that's important for you to remove, and you want to stay that way, but you really don't want to expend 2 mana. You give them so much time to just get it back to their hand and mess you up. So that's the main problem of it. Usually these blue tap removals are not very good. It's for that reason. Like there is like sacrifice in the set, there is bounce in the set, there is untap in the set. Here we don't really have sacrifice, but there's usually a lot of things that you're kind of hoping opponent is not going to have, and if they have it, they blow you out. And when you pay 3 mana for a removal spell, especially when it's enchantment based, which can be destroyed as well, you kind of want it to just get rid of the creature.
Yeah, you'd rather have binding.
Oh, binding is great, yeah. It gains you to life, gets you back in the game if you're losing the race, and it deletes the creature. Goodbye. They can destroy the binding. That's always the bad thing about these cards like that, but it just deletes it at least. This one has the same drawbacks of binding, but it also has a lot of extra cases where it's going to be a big blowout, and it's where it's going to really suck for you when opponent bounces it or sacks it or whatever. I really like this one, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, what do you like about it? It attacks for a lot of damage.
I like that it attacks a lot of damage.
The problem is like black a lot of times is not super aggressive, and this doesn't work in any other deck, and that's about it. And then double black is quite a steep cost. It's gonna be hard to double spell sometimes with this. But you want to do that, and then you're paying like 3 plus 2, which is 5 in total and you almost always gotta do it because you're gonna lose 3 life if you don't. Like 5 for a 4 powered attacker that trades with basically any other flyer. If black was more aggressive, it would probably be better. It's just like an aggressive card in a color that's not very aggressive.
Yeah.
and it costs a ton. It's yeah, it doesn't have a lot of applications. It's just like you gotta kill the opponent. And black is not. Yeah.
Okay. I could see that. I just find I found it rather difficult to deal with flyers in this set, actually, despite all the reach and the flying that one could have.
Yeah. Reach, removal, your own flyers. You're not playing those?
Not enough, apparently, against other cards that are.
We're gonna get to gameplay. Like, it could be that you're not. A lot of times, the drawback of flyers is that they have lower stats than the ground creatures. So, whenever you're getting beaten down with the flyers, like you could, there's always a question like, could you have had? Could you have attacked more? Could you have won the race? Like, I've had sometimes with my students when we go to deck building, like they make flyer decks with almost only flyers. Those are usually garbage, complete garbage, in most sets, because like you need ground to hold off the opponent's creature. If you're one second, if you're attacking in the air, you need ground creatures to hold off the opponent's creatures if they're going to race, because they're going to be bigger. They're going to have better stats than your creatures. So I don't know. We're gonna see in gameplay. I'm gonna check. We're gonna check a bit of gameplay. Maybe not today. We're gonna see. I think we are. I think we're gonna go over time with a card evaluation.
Yeah.
But that's always one thing. Always ask yourself, like, if I'm having problem with flyers, could I have killed the opponent by attacking on the ground? Because I don't have problem with flyers. Like some decks are super slow, so I add a little bit more protection against flyers, maybe reach or maybe my own flyers or something just in case. But I don't know. Flyers have never been a problem for me, except in one set. I can't remember, M20 or something, where the flyers were completely broken. That's just no reason to discuss that one. Okay, you didn't. You didn't. You're not sure how to grade this one.
I just I have poor reading comprehension, and there's just too much text going on, and I didn't understand it. Like, I don't know what it's trying to do, because it's just like, do this and then this and if this and that, and I was just like, I'm overwhelmed by what you're trying to tell me now, and I don't know how. I can't. I'm taking too much time processing this instead of actually thinking about how it would play out.
Okay. Let's like help you out with this one if you want. So it's actually pretty simple, but it has a lot of text. I think Ham has that problem as well. It's so like you destroy all artifacts you don't control. Okay, all artifacts opponent have are dead. What is the number of those artifacts? Okay, let's say it's 3. That means I'm gonna look at the top 3 cards of my library, and I'm gonna get a creature from those cards, and I'm gonna put it in the battlefield. But it's not gonna stay there. Sure, it's gonna attack because it has haste. It's gonna go back to my hand. So you, in a set that doesn't have a lot of artifacts, you need opponents to. I mean, it has clues, I guess, and so on, but rarely there's a crap ton of artifacts on the battlefield. So you're just gonna pay 5 and hopefully kill some clues, basically, in this set, and get maybe a little bit of damage. I don't know, from hopefully a creature that was on top of your library, and then it still doesn't affect the board, that creature, because it's going back to your hand. You just drew it.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't want to play a lot of like 5-drops in your deck. So what is the probability of you getting back your mana's worth, casting this, and then putting it back in the hand, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the last set. This would be broken. This would be I mean, it would be incredible. It would actually be incredible in last set, I think. Just because you're killing all the artifacts you don't control, and there are so many artifacts on the battlefield. But in this one, like, there's just not enough artifacts. I mean, if there is not enough artifacts, great. Because this other part of the text is like, you're gonna draw one card and maybe deal a little bit of damage. You're hopefully gonna draw a card. So you just need you need a ton of artifacts on the opponent's side for this to ever be good. It's that simple. It's that simple. Because the other part is not very relevant. Drawing one card and dealing hopefully a little bit of damage. It's not relevant. If the other part was something game winning, I don't know. You play like next 3 creatures and they stay on the battlefield, and fuck it, man, one artifact is enough to kill. But this thing needs to kill a lot of artifacts since it's 5 mana and you're not doing that. It's simple. I don't know. Hope that makes sense. Oh, this one you didn't? Really? You're not sure about this one?
I don't understand this text. That whenever whenever a creature is dealt damage, its controller may exile that many cards on the top of. I don't know what that means.
So you attack and you attack with a 2/2. Opponent blocks with a 4/4.
Uh-huh.
Your creature is going to be dealt 4 damage. Their creature is going to be dealt 2 damage.
Okay. And then do they get to look at 2 cards, or do they get to look at 1 card? Because there was 1 creature that dealt damage, but then 2 damage was
dealt. No, it's the amount of damage.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Wow, yeah, this is actually weirdly worded. It's true. No, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Then that's probably bad. Because you give your opponent a card. And like in order for this, like if you're red, you want to be attacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're attacking and you're the one dealing damage to the opponent's stuff, then they are gonna get to draw cards.
Let's say this card was colorless and costs 0 mana.
Okay.
Tell me what you think about it then. Colorless and 0 mana.
Colorless and 0 mana. I still think no, because in order for you to be, it's still bad because in order for you to gain benefit off of it, you would have to have your creatures dealt damage, and then you would specifically have to build like a defender deck to have like big butts and your creatures don't die. And then like, do you really want to? Yeah, it's like it just doesn't make sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because this seems to like, because okay, I'm assuming that you usually win a game by attacking your opponent, right? And every time you attack the opponent, you're essentially giving them the chance to draw a card.
You can put it in that way, but it's kind of like any card that gives a symmetrical effect is if you are both gaining something from it, is basically always unplayable.
Yeah, because usually you want something that really only benefits you.
Yeah, you want cards that benefit you, not both of you. Yeah. And I'm not saying like there are cards now. There are cards that I don't know. It does something for you, and maybe it does something for the opponent, and they're good. But like these kind of exactly symmetrical effects are usually pretty easy to grade and pretty easy to decide if they're good or not. So like in the future, whenever you see like symmetrical effect, you can say to yourself, okay, this is horrible, this is unplayable because I'm losing a full card to give both of us the same thing. I mean, you're losing a full card, you both get the same thing, you're also zero, if it costs 0 mana, doesn't matter. Opponent is not losing a card, so they're already a card ahead from you. And sometimes there are symmetrical effects where you're going to take advantage of it and opponent isn't going to take advantage of it. I don't know. Let's say something, you have one artifact archetype in all the color pairs, and you're playing it, and you have a ton of artifacts in, and you expect that every other deck except that archetype is not going to have artifacts. So you can play like a card that says all the artifacts gain +2/+2, and your opponent's artifacts as well. But this one is just like all the creatures are going to be dealing damage. I mean, what are you playing? 20/05s? What are you doing then? How do you win the game then? So you really don't want symmetrical effects. Remember last time we talked about you need your cards to be worth 1 card at the minimum. Like a 2/2 creature is worth 1 card. It's a 2/2 creature. You get it on the board. That's a full card. Kill an opponent's creature is worth a full card. You're using 1 card, removing a full card. This one is not. You play a full card, and you both are getting the same effect, and
So
you can use it the
losing.
same way. And you're gonna see this in every set. Usually a couple on the higher rarities, where you can just unless very specific things are happening, it's got to be super specific. I don't know, like the one that I mentioned, it's just gonna be unplayable.
One of your students or potential students came through. Did you notice?
Scotty.
Yeah.
Hey, Scotty.
He's like, I was like, are you gonna show us? And he said, maybe if Lola does a bad job here, I'll cancel.
Well, what? Maybe Lola does very bad. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I told Scotty that I don't want to do a session with him at first, and then I. I watched a couple of his streams in a row at one time, and then I was like, okay, we can do a session. We can work on the gameplay.
Okay.
I think one of them was arena openers. I think so. And Scott is a really good player, but there were some things that I was like, no, Scotty, no, you cannot do this. Because I didn't watch his stream in a while.
Okay. Well, the level of coaching is probably going to be different because Scotty is a much better player than I am. So
it's going to be different. We're definitely not going to be working on card evaluation. Scotty is really, 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 really good at card evaluation. Well, that's why I do tier lists with him. So it's going to be like almost only gameplay. I think it's going to be like almost only gameplay. Why is the tier list broken? It's not. It's just like she didn't grade everything.
Yeah. So
but
we're comparing the grades. So like on the left side is Lola's grades, and on the right side those are my grades. And some of them I just didn't grade because I have low IQ and reading comprehension.
No. No. But your grades are like you have. This is completely different than LCI. Like in LCI, the format was like 2 months old. That's why I really wanted. Usually, I don't do card evaluation this late into the format, but your card evaluation after like 2 months of LCI was horrible. It really needed work. So that's why I wanted to do it. And this thing, like the tier list right now, compared to how it was in 2 months after LCI hit, this is crazy improvement. Like this is so much better now. And this set is harder to grade than LCI. A lot harder. So just comparing like how you were, the set is 1 month and a half old, how you were 2 months after LCI was hit. This is a huge difference. Like you can be extremely proud of yourself. This is night and day than what it was
Yay!
like 2 months ago for LCI. I'm not just saying that. I'm always gonna be honest and direct. So even when it might hurt.
Even the compliment hurt.
What do you say?
Even the compliment hurt. It's like, you're much better. You used to suck so much.
No, this is really good. Like this is really this is on par. Like this kind of card revelation, I would say, is on par with highly above average players. I'm not. We are gonna get to gameplay and stuff. I'm talking about the card revelation. Like this is way above average. So you can be proud of yourself. It's not like you sucked and now you don't. Now you're not horrible. This is really good. Like this is. I would be happy if my card revelation was like this in after a month and a half. Like I would be fine.
Yay!
Just a couple of things, but it's just a couple of things. Most of the things you can be really happy with yourself. And I'm never gonna just say that to you just for you to feel better. I don't believe in that. What happened here?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a scenario where this could have been good.
I don't know. You didn't grade the grade, so.
Yeah, I didn't grade it because I don't know if this is actually, like, would I play it in any deck? No. But what if there is a deck where it actually is good at? You know? It was also, again, where it was, like, polarized to me. So I couldn't really rate it.
Ah. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, one of the worst cards in the set, if not the worst card. And you're right that first thing that you said, that was correct. Where would it be good? It's, let's say you're always somehow always putting lands in the graveyard. The problem is, like, you play this, you're trying to ramp, obviously. Next turn, you're still not ramping because the land enters the battlefield tapped. You paid 3 mana, and
There's tapped. Okay.
yeah, and 2 turns have passed, and you still didn't even ramp. And remember, you also had to have the lands in the graveyard.
Yeah.
3 turns pass, and you have 1 extra mana, but you already paid 3. So you have 1 extra mana after kind of 3 turns, but you paid 3 and a full card. When are you going to use that mana? Like, it just doesn't make any sense, the card.
Yeah, even if it was to work in a particular deck, it's still too slow because you don't like get to use the mana right away. You get to use it like next turn, and there's no like landfall effects.
In
either.
2 turns, not even next turn.
Yeah, not even the next turn. So like, no, yeah.
Compare this.
You wouldn't play this,
compare
especially
this-
in this set where like you rather pay 3 mana to put something face down.
Oh, I mean, if you're gonna go with like, this is usually the case. Like we get these things a lot, lands from the graveyard, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'm gonna do this, maybe I'm gonna do that. Yeah, but most of the time, when you actually want to ramp, the lands are not in the graveyard. It's like the lands are in the graveyard when you get to turn 6, and then you don't want to ramp. So these are basically never good, no matter how they look. There is what is the they went this way. Like, just compare the card. Is this card broken? No, it's just a normal magic card. 3 mana, you get a land, any land from your deck. You get to fix. You get to get the exact land, no questions asked. Just it has to be basic. Get it on the battlefield. No need for this graveyard bullshit. No need for extra steps. And you're also gonna draw a card when you want. And that land you can use next turn and on any other turn. No extra steps. Like, if this is playable, then this is the best card I have ever seen, and it's like A++.
Yeah, it's also easier to cast because it's not double.
Yeah, it's also not double green. Yeah, and it also goes into graveyard for collect evidence. There's just this card is just fine. It's fine card, but compared to this, it looks like the most broken thing. And yeah, if if just a playable card is most broken compared to something that's unplayable.
Hmm.
Well, ooh, there's just like two things I want to discuss, and I think we're not gonna do gameplay today. I think we did enough for card evaluation. No, three. This one. Everything else is really fine. I know how you graded C's now, so that's fine. This one you gave it a really high grade.
Uh, because it's, wait, what did I put? Did I put a B?
B.
That's too high.
If you don't agree with your grade, you can also tell me that. Like, I don't care what you thought at any point in the past. I care what you think now.
I think it's more like a C plus or B minus because the ceiling goes up pretty high on it, I feel. And like you could hard cast it or you could disguise it. And I just felt like flexibility was really important in this set. Like it would suck if you pay a 4/4 for a 4/4 you pay 5, right? But like hopefully you're never in that situation. You are building your deck with optimism, right? So you would build this because your deck can like make this card coincidentally also good. Um, and because it's a big creature, I I just feel like big creatures are really good because like aside from the trample issue, I wish there was more trample. If this had trample, would be much better. But like red cards can't really deal with this as well when it's like way too big. Uh, and I think I can only think of a few cards that could like trade up if it's removal with this.
I mean, if you had enough cards on the battlefield, right?
Yeah, and if you're playing green, white, or white, period, like you should be able to do that, right?
So the thing is, like, if you're playing green white, that's very pretty good because you really want to just pay 5 and cast it. You don't want to play 3 and then 5.
Yeah.
So you just want to go 5. So that's where it is pretty good. And it's not broken or anything in there as well because remember what we talked about 5 drops? They're
Yeah.
very replaceable, interchangeable, and you cannot like play a ton of them. And when you are disguising it and then flipping it, there's so many cards that fit into that category that you can play instead of this or play this instead of them. So you don't want to pick those too highly because you're just going to populate that bracket like we talked about pretty quickly, and then any other time where you get completely free cards like this one. Like if you're not Celestia, right? Or it's like a morph that you want to unmorph. Um, well, you're not gonna put them in the deck, right? Because you already took enough, so you don't want to populate that bracket too fast. And it is pretty good in Celestia. It's fine. The thing is, a lot of times you just trade, right? You're just attacking, you're both attacking, you're trading, and this is just one big body which can be removed with one thing. So, like usually 5 drops that are just one big body are not that good because opponents are always going to trade up with removal on them. They're always going to use less mana, and sometimes that can be backbreaking, right? Sometimes I'm sure you played against where a lot of times you could have flipped the morph, but you really needed you couldn't. It would be overwhelmingly bad negative tempo for you if opponent killed it. So you
Mm-hmm.
just decided to play cards from your hand instead,
Mm-hmm.
and this one falls kind of into that category. It's always just one big creature, and when you get to 5+ mana, those one single big creatures are just fine. They're nice, but nothing special because of that removal, and they can be chumped super easily. Uh, but you really, this card really is not. It is not that good in any deck except Celestia.
Oh.
Because when you gotta pay 3+5, that's 8 in total for a big body. That's a lot. That is a lot for one big, hopefully big body. I've seen this guy be a 4/4 as well.
Yeah, I guess I've really only played it in Celestia though too, so I guess I have a bias towards it being good.
Oh yeah, in Celestia I like it. I do like it in Celestia.
I would
What?
rather play the crocodile over this one if I was playing green blue, right?
Yeah, because you can also play in blue green. Did you say blue green? Yeah, because the 5/5 is big enough for it to do work. And in red decks, like the offender is better. It's a 5/4, but it also gives +2/+. Also, you can attack with more things. You can deal lethal, so that works way better. Most often from your 5 drops and onwards, you kind of want him to do something else than just be a big chunker. Because that makes you either, if they do something else, they either make you push for advantage easier, or they make you get back in the game easier. So that's kind of the rule for 5 drops, 6 drops. Like either multiple bodies, gaining life, or having some extra added effect. That's just not one big body. But in Celestia, that's fine.
I just
So,
what do you think about like okay, let's just pretend that it very not often happens that you play this for a four as a 4/4. You often play this as like I think like a 6, 7, 8 power creature
mhm.
and paying 5 or like a 6, 7, 8 power creature. Is that not good?
In Celestia? Yeah, it's pretty good.
But you don't like this card because it's only good in one archetype. Is that what's going on?
Well, it's good only in that one archetype, but it's still, it is nothing special. Like that
Oh.
big body is a lot of time not going to be overwhelming because it can be easily chumped. It can be, if it's removed, opponent is basically always going to use less mana than what you paid for to remove it. That's why like the big 5 drops are kind of they're kind of trapped. In this set, it is okay.
Okay.
Just because like the early game is not overwhelming, so playing one big body on 5 and having it removed is not gonna be backbreaking. So that's the nice thing about it. But just historically, single big bodied 5 drops are nothing that special. In this set also because the games kind of tend to, there's gonna be a good amount of games where you're gonna have a couple of creatures on the battlefield. This does get better. Because in a lot of sets, this would be a 4/4 or a 5/5, which would be really bad. In this set, it's usually a 6/6 at a minimum. But then there is that fail case where it is just a 4/4, and that is going to happen when you wanted to trade, or there's going to be a case where opponent does remove it, but then it might feel fine, but you kind of didn't want to trade, so you didn't attack or you didn't block because you wanted it to be bigger. So you maybe made suboptimal decisions before, and then when it gets removed, now you paid even larger cost than just 5 mana. You also paid not trading with creatures, not dealing damage to the opponent, not blocking, and not attacking.
Yeah.
So just be careful with big 5 mana creatures. 5 or 6, you're looking for a little bit extra. Why I kind of like the crocodile and the creeper more is crocodiles is at least like 5/5 is one of the biggest things on the battlefield already, and it can give you some clues. It's nothing special. Creeper, you can just play 5 mana in any green deck, and it can be a 5/5. But if you want it, it can just remove opponent's either artifact creature or enchantment removal or something. So that's a really good extra, even though it costs 6. But a lot of times you just play it as a 5 mana 5/5, and that's completely fine. So yeah, you graded this as nothing.
Again, because I felt it was a little polarized because I was like, yo, you can destroy any permanent. And but then you give your opponent mana. And I don't know if that's good or bad. Or what's the trade up or the trade down.
You don't know if that's good?
Yeah. Like if like Like, is it that bad if opponent just gets like one more land when I destroy their bomb?
Okay, that's the usual trap. Exactly that. This is the last card we're gonna go through, by the way.
Okay.
There is not that many. I told you, like, we went. There is not that many to go through. Your card revelation is pretty good. This is exactly that sentence is what I hear a lot. Like, if they're gonna get something else, but when I kill their bomb, is that gonna matter? If you're always gonna be killing bombs with a removal, then every removal is a bomb. Like every removal is an A plus if that's what it does, if it kills bombs.
Yeah, but it's not just your bomb. It's like their entire engine, you know? Like, what if I just like get rid of their chalk outline or their roots or like their satchel and all of this stuff? Like, it can get rid of anything. And I thought the flexibility of it being able to destroy anything was like making it better than like a destroy target creature removal.
Yeah, destroy permanent is pretty good effect. But I think it's like killing their creature or killing their enchantment or artifact or whatever. Well, it's, how should I put this? In terms of like before you get in the game, it is good to have the flexibility, but you're just killing that one card. Anyways, if you're killing the thing that is that is a bomb or that's going to lose you the game or something that if they don't have it on the battlefield you are going to win, then 6 mana removal, like 6 mana destroys something, even 7 mana destroys something would be extremely good. But the problem is that most of the time when you're using removal, you're using it not on a bomb, not on a game breaking card at that particular situation. You're using it on a 2-drop, on a 3-drop, on a 4-drop, on a random thing because you want to attack, or on a random thing because you want to take less damage. Rarely removal hits something that is game breaking. Any removal feels good when it's killing the bomb or something that feels like a bomb at that moment. But that is on average not what removal is going to do. You gotta kill what I have. Like you play against Boros deck, you're probably killing like a 3-drop or 2-drop. Like a small flyer or something. And this is one of the worst removals, like for limited, ever printed, for limited. It, you are, it falls into the same category like we talked about a couple of cards today. You really want your cards to be a 1-for-1.
Yes.
You really want your at least 1-for-1. You really want your cards to be worth 1 card. And this thing is killing, is destroying something, and it's also getting them a land. A land is a card. Like if you get into, when you get to late
Yeah.
game, when you get to, I don't know, you both have no cards in hand, so mana doesn't matter that much. Well, any removal is good then. Like 6 mana destroys something, sorcery speed, that is unplayable. But when you get to the super late game, it's completely fine card. The thing is, like, if you are happy with using your removal only in late game, then it usually sucks. Unless it breaks the game, like unless it does something crazy. I don't know. 7 mana removal spell. Well, it's only gonna be good in late game because when are you gonna have 7 mana? But what if it I don't know, mills opponent by 30 or something? Well, now it's pretty fucking good, even though it's only used in the late game. So when you have removal, you really want to be able to use it at any point of the game. And this extra text, just that it can kill an artifact or enchantment, or a planeswalker, I guess, which is maybe gonna happen sometimes, is not worth it. Like that enchantment is 1 card. If they have chalk outline, they probably use it. Like they play chalk outline, you remove it. Well, you're removing that 1 card. Hopefully they didn't get anything from it already, but you're just removing that 1 card, and they're still getting a land. And in the earlier parts of the game, that land is going to be game winning a lot of times. In the later, a little bit later in the game, they can get their fixing. They can now play things that they couldn't before, start double spelling. So you really, really want your cards to be worth one card, and you don't want some special situations to for that to be true. Like, of course, this could be opponent attacks. You block,
Okay.
they use a trick, and now you're removing two cards. But that's any instant speed removal. And that's the reason why instant speed removal is good. But you don't want to wait for exactly that situation. When you're killing something, you just want to kill it and life goes on. Um, we've had some removals before where you remove it and opponent gets a treasure. And that was insanely bad. And how land is a lot better than treasure. Those removals were really bad. There was also removal where the Raven, I don't know, you exile a lot of these removals where you exile something forever, and they get a 1/1. Like 1/1. What is a 1/1? That's like the weakest creature on the battlefield. Basically unplayable. All of those removals. Uh, un- Unplayable in almost every deck. Just unplayable. Cannot make the deck. Why? They're just getting the 1/1. Well, try to attach. Opponent gets a 1/1 on every one of your cards. You play this card, opponent gets a 1/1. Well, now it looks, oh, I can never win. But this is just one card where they're going to get a 1/1. Just one card where they're going to get a land. Or how about 0 cards where they get a 1/1 or a land? That sounds even better. It is maybe a little bit easier to picture these cards when, what if I have multiples of those? Like, how bad would it be if 4 or 5 or 10 of my cards would make opponent get a land from their library onto the battlefield? Like, how do you win any game then? Well, one card, it's better to have one card like with this effect than 10, and it's even better to have 0.
Ah, okay.
Because the effect here is destroy something.
Yeah.
That is not a broken effect, that's just a removal.
Huh.
The effect is not make a 10/10 hex per flyer or something.
Okay. I guess they just overvalue removal then, huh?
Yeah, like 90% of the people. 90% of the people. It's like, because you're gonna remove the best thing ever. Try to look back at your games, or now when you're gonna continue to stream and play, since this is the last card, and try to see where you're using removal. And try to see how many times was it just a normal creature, and how many times was it a bomb. And you're gonna realize that most of the time it's just a regular creature.
Okay. Observe how often you use a card and what, and
Are you talking?
yeah, sorry, I'm talking to myself because I'm trying to write a note down. Like I'm trying
Oh,
to
okay.
like, put into a sentence what you just told me.
Well, I'm trying to think, figure it out. Because like 2 mana is a good removal spell at instant speed, like this one, and then go to any 2-drop or 3-drop that you have and try to add this effect to it.
Okay.
Or basically any card.
Um,
And you're gonna see just one more thing. You're gonna see this in every set. Like 2 mana destroys something, and opponent investigates. 2 as well. It's then that's just an extra card for them. Anything that affects the board or helps the opponent, that's an extra thing. That's an extra thing. Saying like whenever a card has like you add an extra treasure, all of a sudden like it's a 2/3 that adds a treasure. Oh, now it's really good. But if it didn't have the treasure, it would be unplayable. Well, you're just attaching that to one of their random cards now when you play this.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, apparently someone in chat played against you early on in the format, and they played Assassin's Trophy, and giving that extra land helped you ramp into doppelganging harder than.
Oh no, that's like the worst possible scenario. where where opponent has an 8 drop. That's not normal. Oh, I'm not sorry. You played Assassin Trophy. Oh my god.
That was Flutter Death right there. That was him, and he regrets it a lot.
He's, or that's not gonna happen often. That is a that. Well, you know what? A lot of people are gonna do say in that scenario is, of course, they had a doppelgang, the only card that profits from this extra land. When oh, anything profits from extra land, but that's so nasty. That is so nasty. I also lost to Assassin's Trophies. I lost a couple of times to that. Like losing to bad cards doesn't mean that they're good.
Yeah, I try really hard not to think like that
Yeah.
because there were times where like people were using on my watch on me, and then like it worked. But I'm like, no, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. The thing about these cards is, especially like on the on that's the exile one, right? The 2 mana white exile.
Mm-hmm.
It is easy to seal when that card was good, but it is very hard to see when that card was bad, because these cards, when are they bad? Especially the exile, white exile. When an opponent has it in their hand, hidden from you, and they kept 2 mana open, but you didn't attack, and now they lost 2 mana instead of playing something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to know, oh, that card was winning me the game, because you don't know what's in their hand. You don't know that they had it. They might have just top decked it. So it's very easy to see, like, oh, or for example, like they had Assassin's Trophy and they really didn't want to use it in the early game, and because you would ramp and that's so good for you. And then at one point, well, they were playing with one less card, and they were losing because that card was stranded in their hand and they didn't want to use it. But you never knew you were winning because they had the Assassin's Trophy in their hand. So
Yeah.
especially against the opponents who have like all of the cards hidden in the hand, you don't know when you're winning against those bad cards. It's also why you should never be angry. At least try to angry at opponents getting perfect mana, because when they get perfect mana, you're like, fuck man, how do you do this? And they win because they play all 5 colors. Very bad deck building, but they can play anything. And of course their deck is better because they're playing just 5 colors with no logic. I play a lot of 4 or 5 color decks in this form, but completely different. Like there has to be some logic behind it. But then you're gonna be winning against so many 4 or 5 color decks that were badly made with bad land bases, but you're never gonna know about it. Like they're just gonna have a lot of cards in their hand, and you win at one point, and you don't even know that you won against a 4 color deck. That's
Yeah, you said that in the podcast, I remember. It's like you lose against these 5 color decks, right? But you never see how often that deck loses.
yeah,
Because
against you,
yeah.
because it's hidden, because the hands are hidden. No, I didn't know you said it. Okay, good thing you told me. I'm not gonna repeat it.
No, it's okay.
Um,
Well, I think that's it for the card evaluation then. And it's pretty late for you over there, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. I'll spare you.
What do you say?
I will spare you.
No. I will spare you. No, we did more than what you told you wanted, actually.
Which is great. More information is better than less.
Okay, that's sometimes. When we are gonna do
More
game,
useful information is better than not.
I also sometimes not. I think you're gonna see, like when we do gameplay, that's when we're gonna do gameplay. If you're gonna be okay with doing 17 lands, we can do a mix of live gameplay, but through 17 lands, it's gonna be so packed that a lot of times on the gameplay sessions with my students, I go by the feel, I see how it is. I kind of cut the session after 1 hour. I say like, okay, this is so much information. I think we should cut it because everybody, like, nobody's a robot. It's easy for me to talk about the things that I know, but you're the one changing your habits. You're the one trying to like get better, and that's hard, right? You're the one getting new information in. So we're gonna see, like, if you're gonna say that in the gameplay session, because yeah, it's those are gonna be pretty packed for you probably.
Thank you
Well,
again, Lola.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and guys, check out Lola if you already don't know about him somehow, and consider getting a coaching session or two from him. Have a good night. I hope you sleep well. Thanks for your time again.
Not for the faint of heart. Well, have a good time. You're gonna continue streaming, right?
Yes.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye bye. Bye bye, everybody.